Ruslan.
Yeah,
All right, so one of the topics you guys hear me talk about on here is health, fitness, sometimes in a way where people get convicted by it, and I think it's a good conviction. Now, to me, this stuff has been so crucial, so important in my journey with God and my journey with just becoming more disciplined, more self-controlled. And so I brought along my trainer, Rich Sayen, from Ultimate Fitness here in beautiful North County, San Diego. Yep. And Rich, just as a just brief, who are you? And how long have you been doing fitness? And then I want to get into some serious meat on this topic. So, Who are you? How long you been doing this? How did you get here?
I've been personal training for over 20 years, mostly one-on-one training. Do some semi-private. I've had a pretty successful CrossFit gym for about 7 years. Train stay-at-home moms to elite athletes. Elite athletes like me. Yeah, sure. Now you are
getting there. Yeah. So you've been at this for a long time. Now you're also a believer in Jesus. You're a Christian.
Yeah.
Which makes training with you even more fun. And there's this verse we were just discussing the other day. I'm going to pull it up so people can see it. It is 1 Timothy 4:8. For physical training is of some value, but godliness has value for all things, holding promise for both the present life and the life to come. I hear this verse used by Christians all the time, and it's always a dismissal. Physical training has some value, but it doesn't really matter. How do you view this verse in context of what you do as a fitness professional?
This has actually been one that I've kind of patterned my life after, is because of value, and it recognizes that physical exercise does have value. And I always put that second tier, but knowing that is of importance, of knowing that physical exercise does have value.
Right. And some people who kind of over spiritualize things will ignore the fact, the value of physical exercise, right? And they just go on to the second part of the verse. What I also like about this verse is that physical training is of some value, so there is value, but godliness has value for all things. And then it says, holding promise for both the present life and the life to come. So godliness has value for things in this life and the life to come. Sure. But physical training has value for this life, this present life, the quality of life, the intensity of life, the ways it touches everything else in my life, right? So physical fitness makes me get up earlier and read my Bible more, and we literally work out to worship music, which I thought I was kind of cheesy wanting to play gospel music, and you're like, oh no man, elite athletes do that all the time. So for me, this is as much as it is a physical thing, it has value for my spiritual side on this side of eternity. Is it that deep for you? Because I think it might even be a little deeper for me than it is for you, and I'll get into why.
I'm right there with you, because I remember early on I was given a message at a movement church, shout out to the movement, and one of the young people that I was training came up and they asked him, why you train? And he was only 21 years old, and he goes, so I'm ready for what God has before me. And that may be a physical thing. And so in his mind, it wasn't even for the now, it was for the future of, I want to be ready. And that we as Christians, that's why we read our Bible, so that we know what's to come in the future. And so we need to do that with our body too, not only for spiritual reasons, but what happens when something's in front of you? Can you handle it? And so spiritually, that's the same thing of what if God calls me to do something, or be a shepherd, or be a sheepdog for someone? Can I physically take care of them? Am I an asset, or am I no good? And so that's kind of where I'm at with mentally too with that.
That's good. That's good. I think for me it is the obviously the physical side of like, hey, like if something pops off, are you fit, or are you just gonna fall apart? I think it's great. I think the way it touches other areas, right? Meaning that if I'm self-controlled in my physical fitness, then I tend to just overall be in a better place, right?
For sure.
And when me and you started, I mean, we've known each other for years, about 15 years, 17 years, a while. And when we first met, I was a scrawny young kid. And you've had the nutrition talk with me. You're like, bro, you gotta eat way more calories. You gotta get more chicken. But when we first really started, and this is I think a vlog of this, of when we really first like kind of started working together. And this is before I could afford to hire you as a coach. But you were always like, dude, just come by. Let's set a plan. And I remember we did this workout together, and you told me my body fat percentage, and I thought I was doing well. And you were like, bro, you're kidding yourself. You're not eating enough protein. Yeah. And then you trained me, you did a session with me, and you're like, this is what intensity feels like. And it was like you like kicked my butt. But that led me onto the right path. And within about a year of that, I had lost, 15 pounds. I had lost probably 7-8% body fat. And I went from like 24% body fat all the way down to, I think I was at like 14%. But that was great because you were one of the first people, in terms of the fitness side. The theme for today, by the way, guys, is don't be intimidated. That's what we're talking about. But you were one of the first guys that was like, what is your goals? Yep. And let's do it. You can do this. And I was always like, I'm a hard gainer. Yeah. I don't have good genetics, right? And you were like, nah, bro, I was skinny the way you are. I was a hard gainer, but I did it. And by the way, if you guys see the way Rich looks on the thumbnail, that's a couple of months ago. And a couple weeks ago, maybe. That's just turning 50 photo. So he looks incredible for 50. What role does mentality play in someone wanting to get serious with their fitness?
Everything. I mean, just that little bit. So, and so I'm on definitely, I think I've grown as a trainer too on, God, it'd be so nice if it was just as easy as eat good and exercise. But in all honesty, it all starts in the mind, and so learning and understanding how to control your thoughts and getting those in alignments with your goals and getting that all straight it's the basis of success, 100%. I think in everything in life. Yeah. And for sure, the mentality. What was so good about you early on is you were a sponge. I mean, you'd see an infomercial and you'd be stimulated by it. I was going to be like, Rich, I heard about keto. And he'd be like, just eat chicken. Yeah, especially from the get-go, it was the creatine for sure. Yeah. I can tell you how many times you had come at me for creatine. But what's so exciting for me is that desire and that drive for knowledge, And you were never stuck in a box of not wanting to learn. So that's still to this day, I love it comes in with new questions and new stimulants of like, what about this? What about this? I think for sure, that's your growth is based on that. It's just the continued desire to get better and better. And for you in the fitness industry, for sure, your journey has learning what's best work for you. And I think that's is going to be the theme for hopefully today, is that it's not a broad paintbrush. Yeah. It isn't one size fits all. Yep. And that includes mentality. I could tell you how many different things and how many different clients I've had that the mental part of training is the most important part. I've got pictures on my wall, before and after pictures of transformations, but I can't tell you how many times I said, what you don't see is actually the most important. And so what you can't see is how they emotionally and mentally and spiritually change potentially from their before and their after picture. And so I think that is without a doubt one of the most valuable things that hopefully that I can help somebody with is not the physical transformation, which is awesome and important, but for sure the mentality of confidence and knowing who you are, and that you're not to be afraid and not to be intimidated. I think for sure the number one thing, I think if most people could go back in their life and not do, is let fear have a part of their life. And for sure, this comes into play spiritually, physically, mentally, so many things that we're ruled by fear of how many things that we don't do because of it. And this is one of those things that, I'm really trying to develop on me and to pass on to share, is that fear is what's pinning you down. And I don't want you not to be afraid. Yeah. Actually, I want you to be brave. That's good. And so the difference between fear and bravery is really the action, right? It's like we all face fears, but in that fear, what do? Yeah. And so whether it be I'm afraid of certain things, discipline and structure, and I use food as comfort, whatever it may be. Yeah. But number one, that mental thought of bravery comes into play with fitness as well. That's so good. That's such a bar. When I came in,
and I was like, you know what, I'm serious. And what it was is I like got like one of those in-home body fat scanners, and it told me like a percentage. And then you know what it did? It told me, it measured how old you were on the inside, and it told me I was like 55 on the inside. Dang. And I remember I got so angry. Like I was like, I'm done. I've said that fitness is a value of mine for years. Monette had Levi, I was overweight, and I was like, I'm done, I got to take this seriously. You gave me some of the mentality stuff, and you really pointed me the right way, direction, from a nutritional standpoint. I didn't understand how wrong I had it on nutrition. Like, cause you were like, bro, there's no way you're getting enough protein. You want to eat your body weight in grams of protein, what do you eat? We went over, you told me about logging. And then in that 6 to 12 months, the transformation of my body happened physically, and I have like before and after photos. But what it was it was a mental transformation. It was the confidence. It was a feeling of like self-accomplishment, that I actually did something that I said I was going to do. But it did start with the mentality, and I say this on the channel all the time, what you believe will determine how you behave. If you believe that you're supposed to be out of shape, if you believe you're supposed to be unhealthy, if you believe, well, this is just what it is, I have bad genetics, I have high blood pressure, I have this anxiety, I have this depression, I have all these different things, then you'll act accordingly. But if you're like, yo, no, like I don't have to do this. And I think so much is different when we read the scriptures. So much is different in our time, because we spend, not you, but the majority of folks spend the majority of their day sitting, right? Everybody's sitting. When Jesus, when Paul and these guys lived, these guys worked with their hands. They talk about working with their hands. They talk about moving, walking from town to town, right? So I think our context is different, and we live in this like super technologically advanced age. However, depression is super high, anxiety is super high, suicide is up, right? Life expectancy is down. And to me, I would just look around and be like, well, we're not moving. We're not moving. We're not being curious. We're not playing. We're not having fun anymore. We just sit. We just sit in front of screens all day. And that, to me, fitness also pushed me to just go outside more, go on walks. Like we did sprints this morning. We do sprints every Saturday morning. We do, I'm trying to hit a second time a week. That kind of stuff, walking with my son, playing with my son outdoors. You would always tell me like, hey, it doesn't just have to be about working out. Play with your son, dude. Go out, play with your son, do fitness stuff. For sure. Can you touch on just the lifestyle of fitness, like the holistic approach that it's not just about the vanity side. The vanity side is cool, but it's about a whole shift.
And well, let's take CrossFit for example. A lot of good things that CrossFit's brought to the fitness scene, but kind of one of the negative things is sometimes we look at fitness as, that's why I work out, so I can be better inside my fitness, so I can reach a certain number or a certain goal. Instead of, sometimes it's a good idea to take a step back and go, my workouts are just a tool so I can live a better life.
Come on.
And so both are okay. And you know, the stimulation of working out and challenge yourself inside the gym is good. It's not good to get lost up in it unless you're an athlete and that's something that, you know, you're into that athletically and that's your sport. But sometimes our pride can build up a little bit inside the gym and keep us actually away from the gym because I'm not good at fitness. I see all these other people pushing these weights I can't do, or I get tired.
Ego lifting.
Instead of it going, you know what, this is just a tool for me to get in shape, and my life actually is outside the gym too. You know, I do want to play with my daughters. You know, I want to go ride a bike with them. And so those things we've lost a lot, and especially with the lockdowns going on now, even the concept of taking your family for a walk in the neighborhood, that's a big deal. And that, unfortunately, we're losing a lot of that. We're at the point in time in society where we're kind of polarized with fitness as well, where you're seeing people that are so out of shape and so sedentary to super athletes. And so the majority of us need to be in that middle section of using fitness as a tool so that I can have a good life, you know, so I can have a healthy life. And one of the things I challenge the next person who actually ends up in like the emergency room or the hospital, when you're sitting in that room, get off your phone for a second, look around the room in an emergency room, and you won't be surprised who's there. You will say, I knew that. I mean, you'll be able to see what some of the byproducts of bad living it will bring. Now, I want you to do another experiment, and this is going to hurt a little bit for some people. Next time you're at a restaurant and you see someone bring out plates of food, and you see what those food are, and you see the people at the table, I guarantee you can figure out who ordered what. And just a little experiment.
You're
I want you to
digging.
do. Yeah,
You're going hard. Oh man.
So definitely, you know, like our life for sure is a byproduct of our lifestyle, you know, and so when we make fitness a part of our lifestyle, we have a fitter life, and it feels good. It feels good to have a healthy life.
That's good. Oh, wow. You went in. Okay, I don't want to get too hard on people too soon.
My bad,
you really went in talking about emergency room. Okay, so this is what we're going to do. Again, the objective today is we're going to demystify and make you not intimidated by this stuff. It's not intimidating. It's actually a lot simpler. And once you get the tools, you could use these just like money, just like anything else. These are just tools to help us help ourselves, to help us help other people. And so this is what we're gonna do. I'm gonna play a vlog that we shot at Riches. You guys are gonna love this. This is done by Zach Sparazzo. It's actually super dope. And this is gonna walk you through, if you know nothing about fitness, this is gonna walk you through the 4 most important lifts, the compound lifts. These are all, I think they could do all these at home.
Yeah, I wouldn't call them the most important, but I would call them the most broad.
The most broad, okay.
Yeah, because depending on your goal.
The cornerstones?
Yeah, the cornerstone's a great idea. Yeah.
So this is the cornerstone of fitness strength training, and I think just about anybody can learn these, and you can incorporate them. You could do them at home. And in my case, these 4 have transformed everything for me, because I can do them in so many different ways. Even when it was like the initial phase of lockdown and we all thought we were gonna die because we couldn't leave the house, I was still able to maintain some degree of strength training doing these 4. And so I'm gonna play this vlog, and then we're gonna come back in. We'll talk a little bit about nutrition, and then we'll go in. We'll do some of your questions. So check this out. I think you guys are gonna like this. All right.
King's Dream Entertainment. Ruslan.
All right, today we're in the field with the man himself, Sayen, Mr. Ultimate Fitness. He is my trainer, my friend, mentor, coach, all that stuff. And we're gonna demystify strength training. I think too many people get intimidated. I used to get intimidated. And so we're gonna break it down to just 4 simple core compound lifts. The squat, the deadlift, the pull-up, and the bench press. Those are the 4 cornerstones of strength training. If you can master those, variations of those, you can build your own program. You can build a lot of muscle, burn a lot of calories, get your heart rate up with minimal actual time in the gym. So let's get into it.
All right, we're starting with some squats. One of the best values that squats brings is referred to as the king of all exercise. You want to have nice butt? This is it right here. So compound lift is when you're using more than one joint. So we've got actually 3 joints move on this exercise: ankles, knees, and the hips, and all the surrounding muscles that stabilize and contract, those muscles are gonna be working. So quads, hamstrings, glutes, all working, a lot of muscles.
You want one more, don't you?
Ruslan likes to work the camera. He never squatted that low before. Okay, we got deadlifts, another compound lift. A little bit more emphasis on the posterior chain, so the hamstring, and making sure that we have a strong lower back. So we're about to get our lift on. Use your bar to pull your back down into position. Weight in the heel and drive.
My wife is pregnant right now, and some of you husbands out there know baby weight is also for the man too, so I put on about 20 pounds, but the difference is me at 195 looks completely different with muscle on me than without muscle on me as a skinny fat man. So that's the biggest thing, is I don't look as big even though I'm a little heavy right now.
Strength training is super important for goals, depending on what your goal is. But strength training will work conditioning, hypertrophy, muscle, burn calories, shape your body. You're the artist. Hypertrophy is like a bodybuilding. You're changing or growing the muscle.
Muscle weighs more than fat. Rich can give you the scientific explanation of that, but more or less, me at 195 at 20% body fat looks way better than me at 195 at 35% body fat. I look smaller and I look more muscular, and ultimately, I think I look better this time versus the last time my wife was pregnant. I'll pull up a fat Ruslan picture for this part right here.
So we got some pull-ups. So we got a back exercise thrown in here. We'll get a little upper back. So the back is working the lats and the biceps as we do our pull-ups. So that's our compound lift here. Okay, so let's get into it.
If they cannot do a pull-up, can you give them an alternative?
There's several different variations that you can modify a pull-up. You can use a band to assist you. You can do a jumping pull-up. Or you can even do like a row, like leaning over, grabbing a strap or a bar and doing a partial pull-up. Okay, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna do a pull-up. When this is not normal, we're short on time, so usually these guys can do hundreds of pull-ups. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna do assisted pull-ups. So I'm gonna push him to failure, as many as they can do, till his body goes to failure, and I'm gonna make him do a couple more. All right, here you go. Yep. Good extension, chin over bar. Good. Come on. Come on. Let's go. Let's go. Oh. 3, 2, 1. So that was the other compound lift, was the press.
So we're 40 minutes in, I've burned 400 calories, and my heart rate is in the cardio zone. That means that I'm getting double bang for my buck. I'm building biceps, back, compound lifts, but I'm also in the cardio zone. Like, I couldn't be jogging and having my heart rate this up. I'd have to be playing basketball to have my heart rate this up. So I'm getting a gang of bang for my buck here. Still in the cardio zone, burned a total of 500 calories, and we gotta talk about the last lift, which is a push of some form.
So anytime you weight is close to you and you're gonna push it away. So chest, shoulders, triceps, we're working. Simple exercise like a push-up. Couple reps. And hold. Now we're gonna work the shoulders a little bit more. I'm gonna make him walk his hands back. Stick your butt up as high as you can. Keep going, keep going, keep going. Touch your forehead to the ground. Oh, yeah. So that was a press movement. So we did 3 different variations, flat, incline, deep, and elevated, which works our shoulders more. So varies the intensity and different emphasis on the chest, shoulders, and triceps on each movement. So it was good.
So that was a quick overview of the 4 compound lifts: the squat, the deadlift, the pull-up or some type of pull motion, and the push, some type of press push motion. Before I knew these 4 compound lifts, I just kind of went through the gym using random machines, not really getting my heart rate up, and honestly not building a ton of muscle or getting a ton of results, because I was doing things that were more isolated, so I wasn't hitting multiple body parts, multiple joints, compound lift, right? And then once I started doing these, once I got a trainer, once I got focused, the needle started to move radically in terms of forming muscle. And so now we're also going to move the needle down so I can lose some of this COVID weight.
Kingstream Entertainment. Ruslan.
All right, we are back. So those are the 4 compound lifts, fairly straightforward. Those are the cornerstones of just me being able to take ownership of my personal training. And the great part is Rich makes sure I stay on top of legs, because as you guys could tell, I got some big legs and I don't like doing legs. But when COVID hit, I would do those same exercises. Thankfully I got a pull-up bar, but I would do the same things at home, so I could do push-ups with Levi on my back and push him out that way, squats with Levi on my back, that kind of stuff. And I got Levi into doing these, so Levi can do probably about 2 real pull-ups and you know, squats, and he's always kind of messing around the house, but he does better than a lot of his friends. So those are the basics in my opinion. Hopefully that empowers you to not be intimidated. Do not be intimidated by this stuff. It's not that serious. It's fairly straightforward. These are movements that humans as a species have done, right? The pull, the push, the squat, the lift. Like, these are common things. It's just that our culture and our time is so different. Let's give do you want to touch on anything else in terms of lifting and strength training?
Yeah, well, the only thing, everything is, and so we're talking about, we're using a broad paintbrush.
Yes.
And so there's a lot that comes into play with special populations of people with injuries or certain illnesses and those kind of things. But those 4 basic lifts are basically how the body moves. It either pushes things away, pulls things to you, or can hold it statically. And so those are just some of the simple, basic movements that we kind of build a foundation on for a general population. And there, you know, one of the, I kind of said, if that was negative about CrossFit, I didn't mean to, but like, what they did a really good job is helping people to understand modifications of movement. And so they did a really good job of, like, if someone can't do a pull-up, how to do banded pull-ups, jumping pull-ups. And so within those movements themselves, there are tons of different modifications that you can do to start with. And that's kind of what is really cool about that style of training is you can get a high-level athlete training with someone who has injuries or modifications needed, and they can all work out together, which was kind of cool about CrossFit. I mean, it's limited within itself too, but that's really good to understand that even though and a deadlift doesn't necessarily have to be for max weight, or it can be for reps, and it can be for modification. And so those are just simple lifts that we can use to start with a structure or a base. Inside someone's specific goals, we can use those differently or not even use them at all. So someone's an athlete and they need to speed, we wouldn't necessarily use some of those lifts. Or somebody who is it's got spinal issues, maybe we won't do those lifts. So that's just broad paintbrush.
That's good. Thank you for clarifying that. So let's talk a little bit about nutrition. All right. There's a quote that we hear from folks in the financial world, which is, you can't out-earn poor spending. You can't out-earn poor spending. No matter how much money you earn, you can't out-earn poor spending, poor habits, poor financial decisions, right? You just can't. And fitness is the same. You can't outlive terrible eating habits.
Well, the fitness expression on that one is abs are made in the kitchen. And even before that, they're made at the grocery store as you bring food home. And so I dare you to go into a gym and point out the machine that's going to give you the six-pack. It ain't in there, right? And so nutrition is the #1 thing for transformation, without a doubt.
And so for me, nutrition came in the form of educating myself on the types of food I should be eating, the types of foods I should be avoiding. And so I want to throw out some things, and I want you to chime in, just your thoughts on these, and you can correct me, you can disagree if you need to. One of the general rules, again, general broad strokes rules for people if you're trying to lose weight and get shredded, okay? If you're already shredded and say you're 15, 16, you're cut, you got abs, and you want to put on weight, some of this will be inverted for them, right? For Levi, a lot of this is inverted for Levi, right? He's already pretty lean. We're trying to put some size on him. I know he's 6, and you guys, Ruslan, you're a freak. We're trying to put some size on Levi, so some of this is inverted. But by and large, for someone that's watching this, they're like me. I'm trying to lose 20 pounds. My goal is I want to see if I can weigh the same as my wife because she's pregnant. So I think that would be hilarious. But so I'm trying to lose weight. So let's talk about some general rules. I think the biggest rule is don't drink your calories. That's one of the ones that was hard for me initially because if you're drinking sodas, if you're drinking juices. So right now we just took a break and I got these little Waterloos. And these are carbonated. People always think I drink soda. I don't drink soda, but this has 0 calories. It's carbonated, and it like fills me up, right? So not drinking calories with the caveat that I have protein shakes. I have pre-made protein shakes usually everywhere, and that's more of an efficient standpoint. How do you feel about that as a rule?
That's good. I actually even think we need to take one step back and understanding food as a tool as well. And so we can go into specifics, but like, there's an amazing book out there that's called Prescription for Nutritional Healing. And it's a book that sits like this, and it basically will help you to understand people with conditions and how nutrients in food can help to improve or make things worse. And soon as we can kind of go to understand that a food isn't good or bad, it's a tool. Then we can go, okay, how can I utilize for what my goal is? And so we're going through like the pandemic now, and like you can sit and literally go, what can I do for food as a tool to help me to prevent or to recover? And there's ways that we can do that. You know, whether it be a vitamin or certain foods that have certain vitamins, our immunity system, all of this. So taking that step back and understanding food is a tool to be utilized then we can kind of start to really break it down in specifics. Now,
Yes.
for sure, if I'm going to give somebody a transformation program and a weight loss program, I'm going to give them real food. And there's levels inside of this as well. But as a general rule, I'm going to say eat your calories for sure, because your body actually burns calories eating calories.
Yes.
So your thermogenesis actually works in breaking down food. So when we drink our calories, especially if it's something high in sugar, it's just going to turn straight into sugar and stored as fat real quick. So we want the slow digestion
Yes.
of our food for slow absorption. And somebody who has like diabetes actually should be really good at understanding this, type 2 and special, is how fast food can turn into sugar. And so when we understand fiber and what's called the glycemic index,
Yes.
and how that breaks down certain foods, then we can understand a specific tool and how to utilize it too. And so let's take someone who goes, okay, so I want to create the best food program. So you got good, better, and best, right? And so depends where you are in your journey and what you're willing to sacrifice of what that level is going to look like,
Yes.
right? So someone who goes, okay, I'm going to have, I don't have time in the morning. I just got to go. I wake up and I go straight to work, and I don't have time to cook food or prepare food, whatever the excuse may be. And it could be a valid excuse. And they go, I'm just going to grab and make a protein shake real quick. Okay, we'll sit that at good. There was a better and there was a best.
Yep.
Yeah, so
That's good.
a shake is not, drinking your food is not the best,
Yes.
typically.
Yes.
Now we can manipulate that later for different goals.
Yep.
But straight up weight loss, a shake is not the best because it doesn't have all the values that a food may have.
Yes.
And so, especially how it absorbs in the body, there's a lot of thought process of, is the body actually utilizing it? Is it passing through the system too fast?
Yes.
If you had a protein shake, is your body absorbing all that protein, or is it going straight through? And so, does it have fiber in it? And all of these things. So having a well-balanced shake or a drink is not optimal. It could be a good, but I don't call it best.
That's good. Thank you for sharing that. So, so good, better, best. So another idea for me, which this idea of macronutrients, one of the most intimidating, confusing things ever, right? And finally, I got an app. I think I use the Lose It app. Some people use MyFitnessPal. I got a scale. I weigh all my food in grams. I got a video about this, by the way. All my food is weighed in grams, and then it's converted to my goal of I want to hit my ideal body weight in grams of protein, right? So it's not literal grams, meaning that I'm not eating 180 grams of chicken a day. No, it's more like 5, 7, I don't even know what the math is, but it's a gang of chicken, right? Chicken, fish, right? Protein. Once I got my protein right, which is what you really stressed to me, bro, you're not eating as much protein as you think you're eating. You're sitting here saying this, and you just walked me through, what do you eat every day, right? And I said, I have 3 eggs in the morning, and then I have like some chicken for lunch, and then maybe a piece of chicken. He's like, you're not eating enough. And so the wildest thing for me was once I started eating my ideal body weight in grams of protein, which is a freakish amount of food. An egg has about 8 grams of protein. A piece of chicken, a big piece of chicken, about 30 to 40 grams of protein. Big piece of steak, 30 to 40 grams of protein. Just do the math on that. I want to be 180 pounds. For me to get to 180 grams of protein, that is a lot of protein. But I found that me eating the right amount of protein between eggs, chicken, fish, red meat sometimes, I felt more satiated and ate less junky and processed foods, right? So foods in a sense of macronutrients, you got protein, carbohydrates, fats. Talk a little bit about like just the essentials of protein and how important it is for folks to move along in that journey of like understanding how valuable protein is.
Yeah, and so that comes down to like once we understand that food is a tool, then we got to understand how to use that tool, right? You give somebody who's never seen a hammer and you say, build me a house, they're not going to know what the heck to do with it, right?
That's good.
So understanding your macronutrients, your proteins, fats, and carbohydrates, and what do they do in the body? How does the body utilize them? How does it usually break down? Then that will help us to start a foundation of a nutrition program, right? And so in general, this is a broad paintbrush again, the majority of us overeat our carbohydrates.
Come on.
And so if I can get you to focus on eating your protein
Yes.
and get satiated with protein, you're less likely to go overboard on the carbs too as well. And the carbs typically are the body loves carbs, and carbs are not bad necessarily. It's just, are we utilizing the right kind of carbs for our goals and getting to our goals with the right percentage of them? And so I don't want my body to break down my protein and use it as an energy source. I want to make sure that I'm getting the right amount of carbs, that my body is getting the right amount of energy from my carbs. That kind of, the body wants to use carbs for energy.
Yes.
So when I use my building block of protein, I've got to understand, what is protein?
Yeah.
You know, what is it purpose for? What does the body ideally want to use it for? And it's for muscle growth and tissue repair. And so we want to kind of start with that foundation. When I start, have somebody start with a nutrition program, I like them to think about their protein first. Carbs are easy. We can come up with those all day, right? Start with your protein, okay? So depending on their goal, their size, and how many grams they may want or need, start there, focus there, and make sure, and that will first help the repair and growth and breakdown of your muscle tissue, but it also keeps us from overeating those carbs too. Right, because it does satiate us. It breaks down slower in the system. And so as we eat our food, how fast it breaks down is typically how fast we're hungry again. So if I'm eating all carbs or a majority of my carbs and not getting enough protein to slow down my digestion, guess what? I'm going to get hungrier sooner. And so protein has many different ways that we can utilize it, but that macronutrient is foundational that a lot of us miss for transformation.
Yeah, and for muscle recovery, for muscle synthesis or muscle creation, protein. Protein to me was the number one thing. I had been kind of training for a while, going to the gym and lifting, but once I got my macronutrients in check, within a month the body changed, right? Like fairly quickly for me. And I did have some muscle underneath the fat, but it was a pretty rapid move for me. It was like, okay, this is what it feels like. So we're talking about protein. Another rule of thumb, and ideally from food, not just drinks, right? Another rule of thumb for me is high nutrient dense foods that tend to fill me up. And they also tend to be low in calories. So like a 200 grams of shrimp, which is a ton of shrimp, and it converts to about, I think, 40 grams of protein, it tends to fill me up. It's a big volume food, and it's high in nutrients, right? Same thing with broccoli, spinach, right? And so what I found is that if I'm eating less processed foods, more natural foods, I found myself eating way more volumes of foods because I stopped eating low how do you say, like compressed foods, right? Like bread, peanut butter. Those are not bad foods, but they're high caloric foods, low volume foods, right? So I said, you know what? Let me eat high volume foods that are more nutrient dense, right? Spinach, broccoli, strawberries, avocados, those things. I'm full more. I'm physically struggling to eat, but I'm consuming less calories, which keeps me in that caloric deficit, right? What are your thoughts on that in terms of just volumes, cleaner foods, simpler foods, less processed foods? What are some tips and ideas you can give there?
So bringing it way back to the mental state of success, how we view food is hard to change sometimes. And that's probably the number one thing that I have to work on with people is what food is and where its place is in our life. We use it so much for some people for comfort, for emotional things, for sitting watching TV end of the night. They're just snacking on this and that. Fellowship, whatever it may be. We use food sometimes not just to give the body energy. So let's first understand that the mental aspect is a huge part of our nutrition. And so, like you were saying, a lot of the things that we eat and how we view them mentally is sometimes the reason we choose them as well. So by having food that are more dense, and let's say, okay, I said, Ruslan, you can have 100 calories of vegetables, or you can have 100 calories of mashed potatoes. You're going to sit and pick at that 100 calories of lettuce, or you chew it more, the fiber satiates you more. And so it's not only just what it does to our body, but to your mind and how long it took you to eat it. And I'm eating more, I'm tricking my mind a little bit. So there's a lot of mental things that come in with denser foods.
Yes.
And that's a satiation as well, right? Are we gonna, do you have the, and it's very, very hard to go, I have the self-control and discipline to not eat when I want to.
Yeah.
And whether that's being a hungry emotion or a mental emotion or a lazy emotion watching TV or whatever it may be, do you have that discipline to not do it when if you're trying to reach your goal of transformation? And so slower digestive foods typically do really well with the mental side of I'm eating more. And so not only do you feel a little bit more satiated physically, but mentally you go, hey, I shouldn't be that hungry. I ate pretty good.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot there with the denser foods as well.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. And I think for me, those are the mentality with food. And the last thing I would say is, again, we're not going to demonize any foods. And one of the things I've heard you say is like, hey, Ruslan, I know you want your cheat meal, right? Here's the best time. Here's the ideal time. And so for me, it's, you know, for my understanding and what we talked about is usually after a leg day, after a strong cardio day, after a strong CrossFit day, your body continues working, and that could be the time to get in some of the more sugary foods, right? Not at night when you're watching TV going for the Oreos, but maybe if you're gonna reward yourself, knowing when to reward yourself. Can we talk about that a little bit? Because I think people are like, what do you guys talk? You guys, I'm just never supposed to eat fuel. I just only gotta have food for fuel forever. I get it. I'll feel more full and I'll look better. But no, there's a time and a place for and then I want to get to this big idea of like athletes and how much flexibility they have, which is ultimately where we want to get to. But just talk about the place for the cheat meal and how to kind of think about that.
Okay, so I don't think there's a place for a cheat meal. I do think there's a place for a treat meal.
Okay.
And so that's, once again, we get into the mental side of
the
things.
language and the mentality.
Yeah, and so cheating is not good. You know, that's doing something that you weren't supposed to do.
Yeah, that's good. Thank you.
Now, treating yourself is a little bit better mentally going into it. So let's just say me and you both are going out to a restaurant. I go, you know what, I've been good all week, and I'm going to get myself a slice of pizza. And you go to the restaurant, and you go, actually, I was bad all week, and I can't have my piece of pizza. I'm going to order a salad. We get to the restaurant. We both had a piece of pizza. So the physical aspect of our body receives it the same, meaning like we both had the piece of pizza.
Yes.
But mentally, I had allowed myself to do that, so justifying it. You actually went into the game or to the restaurant going, I didn't want that, lost your self-control or self-discipline and had it. And so now your brain goes, see, I told you couldn't do it. You didn't have the discipline or self-control. So the verbiage is pretty important.
Which is terrible for the morale
100%.
Of your mentality.
Yeah, learning how to understand, and this is kind of what I've grown a lot as a trainer too, is learning how to correctly understand and talk to and communicate your subconscious, and how to understand your thoughts and how to correctly break them and utilize them for a positive.
Come on.
And so this is a growing thing that I'm getting into more and more too, but understanding your mind and processing it for edification and not just destruction. And so learning how to correctly use the right verbiage, emotion, and how to build these blocks versus destroy them, super important. And so coming back to that situation, so I don't like to cheat, I like to treat.
Yes.
So if you do allow yourself a treat, there's the good, better, best, right? And so if we go, okay, I've done really good all week, and Friday night is date night, and we're going out to dinner, and we get to have whatever we want. Okay. Now, let's say if you go out for lunch, your cheat meal, oh, guess what? I got the rest of the day to burn it off. You know, good idea. Okay, dinner, same treat meal or cheat meal. I don't have as much time to burn it off, and so it'll stick with me a little more. You know, or it's at the end of the night, and our treat's going to be chocolate cake and wine. probably not the best, right? And so definitely that comes into play about how you're going to utilize it. I wouldn't want somebody to obsess over that, especially when it's a treat. I don't want the anxiety or stress to be too high with that.
That's good.
But it has its place, you know, and I think definitely when we use a treat, if I'm going to utilize it or if I want someone else or a client to potentially use it, I want it to be in a way of controlled. And it's a way of not a reward so much as you go, hey, I've been good, now I can use this treat.
Yes.
It's more of like, I've shown sacrifice and self-control, and now I'm going to show self-control and sacrifice with a small portion or this and that. And so understanding where a treat falls in is a good part, in that it's not necessarily a bad thing, but who wants to go their whole life without, you know, some kind of treats?
Speaking of treats, the folks that I know who are professional athletes in the NFL, right? Why are so many guys who are shredded, huge, muscular guys, they've been athletes for a long time, and I think this is kind of where a lot of us would like to end up. Why does it seem like so many guys that are already muscular tend to have flexibility in their diet, right? I spent a lot of time with my buddy Jeremy Davis, played for the Chargers, and I would just go out with him and I'd just be like, bro, you get to eat what you want. Or Brandon Bournes, when he was the star running back for San Diego State. It's like, bro, you just eat what you want, right? Talk about so this is the benefit of the strength and the muscle and what that does to you physiologically and how it gives you some room for flexibility. Talk about that a little bit.
Martin Luther King Jr. was wrong. I hate to say it. Men are not all created equal. And genetics does come into play. But let's take that off the table. You got to remember, these athletes have worked their butt off. You don't see all the discipline and self-control that it took them to get where they're at. And so it definitely, once we get to a point or a level of fitness, your body is efficient and it can work things off a little bit better. You become more of a machine and you can process things better. But taking that into consideration, a lot of us will catch an athlete or somebody at their bad time. We didn't see how much work they had put in or how much discipline or self-control they actually had. So that's actually a better way to kind of look at an athlete of, man, I wish someday I could put in as much work as they did to get to where they have. I mean, there's a lot of amazing documentaries out there of seeing these high-level athletes and what they had to sacrifice and discipline to get where they're at. And so that's really what we need to strive for versus, hey, look, they're not doing everything perfect. Really, it's they put in the grind already. And if not, you know, bless them for their great genetics and that they were get away with grace. But that's the uncommon versus the common.
In terms of the fitness, though, muscle does weigh more than fat.
Well, a pound of muscle weighs same as a pound of fat, but the density is different. So like if I took a pound of muscle off your body, it'd be about the size of a baseball. If I took a pound of fat off your body, it'd be about the size of a softball. So the density is different. And so someone who has a lot of muscle definitely burns more calories. So you see these athletes that are typically more muscular, their bodies are machines and just burning through those calories and they need them. I can't remember Michael Phelps at one time when he was at his highest was eating 11,000 calories a day and just burning through it just to be able to maintain his weight. So these athletes are, and you can't eat 11,000 calories of clean food. It's just impossible. So they've got to get in that kind of junky food sometimes just to even add up those calories.
And so these guys are able to consume more calories because they have more muscle. And the muscle burns more calories, meaning just resting. If someone's walking around at 190 pounds and they're 10% body fat versus me right now, I'm 195 pounds, I'm probably like 21%, 22% body fat. That person is just at rest is burning more calories, which then if they're training can give them the more flexibility to eat some of the not cheat food, but treat food.
100%. And this is what sucks about I train husbands and wives. Men typically, and broad paintbrush, are more muscular than women, and they will burn calories faster than the woman will. And so I can't tell you how many times I've trained a husband and wife, and the wife is dead on with the nutrition, and the husband slacks off a little bit, and he'll lose more weight. And that drives the wife crazy. But so definitely the more muscular, the more, even size in general, the bigger you are, the more you will burn calories, especially if it's a effective weight like muscle.
Yeah, that's good. All right, so you want to go to some questions, or is there anything else you want to touch on before we switch gears?
No, that's all good.
Is that good?
Yeah.
I feel like we covered a whole lot.
Yeah,
Hopefully you guys feel encouraged and not intimidated by this stuff. And so we're going to go to some of your guys' questions. What we're going to do is we're going to open up the Zoom call for the channel members and the Patreon, so just bear with us as we do that. And we're going to take some of your guys' questions. So if you're a Patreon or why is it doing that? If you're a Patreon or Zoom member, Patreon or channel member, the Zoom link is up, and we're gonna open it up to some of you guys. So just bear with us as we get that situated, and we want to hear from you guys specific questions about this topic, because a lot of folks. Again, we just want to demystify this stuff. This stuff it should not intimidate you. That's the theme of the hour. Do not be intimidated. It is not that intimidating. I like to look at it like playing. When I was a kid, I played a lot, and now I'm older, and I just got to be more intentional to play. You know what I'm saying? I just got to be a bit more intentional to play, and that's how I try to look at it. All right, so the call is open up, so if you guys want to call in, drop into the call, ask questions, do that right now. Let me see. Make sure this is good here. And oh yeah, I gotta adjust that. And we're gonna put this up here. And we're gonna take some of your guys' questions here in the Zoom. If you guys want to talk about mentality stuff, anything like that, let me make sure this is the right Zoom. And then we'll probably go to some of your guys' questions here inside of YouTube as well. Patreon call. Boom. Showing with computer audio. Okay, you're connected with. Cool. So that's open. Okay. So whenever you guys are ready to call in, again, if you're a channel member or you are a Patreon member, the Zoom call is now open for you. You can call in whenever you are ready. I'm gonna go in there and let them know the Zoom call is open, and ask questions for Rich. Again, he's an expert. I'm just a guy. I'm just a guy.
You're not just a guy.
I'm just a guy who does not want to be fat anymore, and I'm excited. I think the way this all ties together, man, the mentality, the spiritual side. I feel like for me, it's been one of the best decisions. Like getting out of debt and getting in shape, from a lifestyle standpoint, are the two. Zoom calls are the two best decisions that I made in terms of just a very pragmatic approach to my faith. And I think okay, we got two people waiting. Let me bring you guys in. Oh, okay. These yeah. Hey, I want some non-athletes in here because we got the athletes, but I'm trying to get some of the non-athletes in here. So I'm gonna go to Kunle. Give me one sec, Kunle. I'm gonna pin you up here in just a moment. Give me one sec. We got the brothers that already train and are already getting it. So I'm gonna go to Kunle. Kunle, give me 1 second. By the way, I did not think through how we were gonna do this from an audio standpoint, just to be completely honest with you guys. So I got my in-ears here, and let me see. Kunle, can you talk?
Check 1 2.
Okay, Rich, can you hear him?
Yeah, you can repeat the question.
Okay,
yeah.
Cool. Let me adjust this thing here. And again, guys, so we're doing questions with Rich regarding fitness, and to ultimately make you guys not intimidated. I'm tired of the intimidation. I was intimidated, and it costed me too much time. All right, so this one of my friends, Kunle, super dope artist. And what is your question for Rich, Kunle?
Hey, what's up, Rich? What's up, Bruce? Thank y'all so much for your time. My main question is, how often do you vary the workout regimen that you guys do to avoid plateauing?
How often do you vary the workout regimen to avoid plateauing?
Now, depending on the goal, it gets a little bit more specific on like what your goal is. Give me your specific goal, and maybe I could help.
Definitely, I'm trying to lose another 15, 20 pounds, but also increasing in flexibility and mobility.
He wants to lose another 15, 20 pounds, increasing in flexibility. You want to lose another? You look great. I don't know why you want to lose another 15, 20 pounds. This man trying to be a bodybuilder on this piece. Kool-Aid, what do you weigh now? We're about the same height. What do you weigh now? I'm just curious.
So I weigh 191.
191. And you're about my height, right? You're about 5'10" and a half?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm
When I
about
first
5
started-
pounds heavier than you right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I was there once. I mean, I want to say at the beginning of quarantine, I put on a good amount of pounds. So before I started being more consistent, I was at 215, 216.
Okay. So he wants to lose weight. What can he do to not plateau in his strength training?
Okay, so that's actually a two-part. So I would even challenge you with your nutrition ultimately, because we can plateau with our nutrition really easily. And so your body will adapt to its caloric intake. And so if you're not periodizing or switching your food intake, your body, the thermogenesis will actually adapt to the calories it's taken in. And so the importance of learning how to not always be in a deficit. And so your metabolism will slow down to adapt to the calories it's taken in. So I challenge you maybe for a couple weeks, and we did this with Ruslan as well. I want you to take in as many calories as you can without gaining weight. Okay, so in watching the scale and monitoring your weight for a couple weeks, unless it's like a time goal, you go, I have to be in shape by this time. Ultimately, I want your body working effective and efficiently. So what I recommend is maybe take 2 or 3 weeks just to kind of increase your daily caloric intake, as many calories as you can. Watch the scale daily, but understand our body fluctuate daily on the scale anyways. And go, okay, let's say you're taking in 1,700 calories, 2,000 calories right now. I'll challenge you to take in 2,500 calories and try to get your metabolism back up to burning those calories effectively. And then once your body goes, okay, I understand he's giving me 2,500 calories and I'm gonna plateau at that calories, then we can create a deficit again and drop you down. And so a lot of times we'll plateau with our food at a deficit. And your body doesn't work very efficiently, especially if for goals and stuff like that inside the gym, if you're always on a caloric deficit.
Yes.
And so we want to make sure that your body actually is getting as many calories as you can get with you still getting to your goal. And so start there first. But with workouts, it's always fun mentally to continually to switch up the workout, and you can use different variables of rep, weights, tempos, and different things. But there's different theories on that, depending on how long you've worked out. It's fun to go, okay, I'm going to go 10 weeks using the same lifts, but each time I'm going to increase the intensity by adding an extra rep or adding an extra pound or, shortening the rep time. So it's always good to, inside the workout, challenge you as well, because your body a lot of the times doesn't know what it's doing. It just knows that it has to adapt to it. And so we always have to make sure that the body's going, do I have to adapt or am I staying the same? And so inside the workout, changing up and challenging those variables, super important.
Yeah. Yeah, and thank you, and Rich, so Kool-Aid, Rich told me to do what he just described, which was, hey, we got to up your calories, because I was in such a deficit all the time, meaning I would stay at like 1,700 calories all the time, and what I think I played myself, because then my body got to this thing called homeostasis, where now your body, and this is why a lot of people lose weight and gain it all back, because your body says, oh, okay, cool, this is where we live now, 1,500 calories, and then you have a bad week, or you go travel, and you eat 2,500 calories at 3, and then boom, you get. So, Rich, you're kind of alluding to carb cycling too, right? Which is
you can play
similar.
around. Yeah, you can play around with different macronutrients and how you're going to determine. I typically like to stay in a percentage range with my macronutrients with somebody, but it's even. Nobody's the same. We use, and it's good for you to learn and understand how your body reacts to certain foods and certain percentages of proteins, fats, and carbs. And you may be low on your fat, and so you go, you know what? I look at my scale. Imagine you got a pie chart and you're figuring out what your macronutrients are. You go, I'm going to see how my body reacts to throwing in an extra meal or increasing my fat intake and all of those things. And not only just throwing empty carbs or calories onto your nutrition program, but how about this? Go, what's going on in my life? Where if I was to add calories that will make it better, what could I add? So let's go, okay, vitamin D rail is really important right now for the immune system and getting over COVID. You go, okay, what foods are high in vitamin D that I can add into my diet? And so, or you go, you know what, my energy level's been really low in the morning. You go, okay, now that Rich said I get to add an extra 400 or 500 calories for a while, where am I low? Where am I hungry? And start kind of really not just generally increasing, but going, how can I use that? And that's a good kind of to specifically do it for you. And it's super important to journal. You look at, there's Dorian Yates, one of the best bodybuilders of all time. He still to this day has every journal of every workout, every food he ever ate while he was the greatest bodybuilder of all time. And so if we can learn from that, especially if you don't have somebody you're accountable to, be accountable to yourself in that journal and reflect, how did my body react to 2,500 calories? It took, it's doing really good. And so that knowledge that we're writing down, that data, is super important for later.
That's good.
Thank you so
Kool-Aid,
much.
that's a fire question, man. Thank you, brother. I'm going to go to Robert. Robert, you are live with Rich. What is your question?
What's up?
Hey, how y'all doing? Hey, what's your mentality when it comes to injury? I don't have an injury. However, it's like I have a slight tendonitis. So I just, my mentality, I'll share you a little bit of mine. I kind of number my steps like the Bible says.
Yeah.
So I practice patience. I wanted to hear from you.
Mentality on injury. What is your mentality on injury? That's a good question.
Avoid them. Yeah, so with tendonitis, like itis is inflammation, right? So once again, how can we use the tool of food to bring down inflammation, right? And so I highly recommend that book, Prescription Nutritional Healing, and find out what foods increase inflammation, what foods decrease inflammation. What are my workouts that potentially are inflaming my joint or wherever your inflammation is, really, healing is in the blood. I mean, you can go back to the Bible and just like how important the blood is, but circulation is one of the best things to avoid inflammation. And so what can I do to increase my circulation in my body? Whether it be compression clothes or hot showers, hot baths, massages, all those things can help to increase circulation in our body. And those are some of the things, but also with your workouts, learning, my muscles may be able to handle the weight, but is my joint? Am I training in a way that my joints are going to be healthy in a long time? And so kind of like reflecting and analyzing and micro breakdown of all those structures can bring down inflammation. And also it's really good for, number one, future injuries, which we want to avoid, right? So maybe you're doing amazing things already because you're not so healthy, you're not so injured already. You've been doing really good at avoiding certain injuries already. So that's the number one thing, avoid it. In jiu-jitsu, like the number one way to get out of a joint lock is not to get in the joint lock, right? And so use the same thing with your training, is how can I train to avoid injury? Some of the ways, first you got to understand, how do I get injured in workouts? Typically not being warmed up enough, or I did a lift that I didn't have a spotter, or I went too high a percentage, or whatever it is. So learning what potentially can cause injuries is a good way how to avoid them.
That's good. That's good. All right, I'm gonna go to Matt. Matt, you're live with Rich. Go for it, Matt.
What's up, Matt?
Okay, cool. So I want to start this by saying, like, I want to lose some weight, right? But I'm still in high school, so I don't really have control of like the meals I have at dinner time, right? So how would you help with that? Like, how would you do that kind of stuff, I guess?
Yeah, that's tough.
When you can't control your meals, what do you do?
Yeah, super tough. What's your goal?
So I'm like 5'9", 160 right now. So I'm trying to just lose to about 150 and then gain it all back in muscle.
Give it to me again.
He said he's 5'9", 160.
Okay.
He wants to lose about 10 pounds.
Yeah.
And then put that 10 pounds back on his muscle.
Okay. Just for looks or for a sport, or why?
You're muted, Matt. You just muted yourself, boss. You're still muted. There you go.
Okay, cool. honestly, just because I come from a relatively chubbier family, and I just want to be the one guy in the family that's like, hey, I got my crap together. You know?
What did he say?
He said he comes from a relatively chubbier family, and he just wants to be the one guy that has his junk together.
You know, and that's actually a really good question because it's really hard when you're not in control of what you're taking in. So, you know, like, it sounds silly, but as a parent, you really want the best for your kids. I would think start the conversation with your mom and dad or whoever you're with is really say, you know, start with a thankfulness, you know, of just like, I'm so thankful you provide me with a house, some food and all that. And I'm not trying to be ungrateful, but you know, I got this one goal in mind and I would really appreciate you to help me out with it. And you get them on board of your goal and that kind of changes them of like, you're being ungrateful, but be an honest conversation with your parents and go, you know what, actually, I'm not going to put it on you to be able to feed me. Can I help you in the kitchen? If you cook for me, I'll clean up. Right, and give them a blessing somehow of like not just being a taker with it, but start that conversation with your family, and you'll be surprised. You might be able to lift your family up and help them in a journey too. And it can kind of vibe off of each other and go, Mom, can I help you with dinner tonight?
Yeah.
And you start learning meals or start, you know, and being helping in the kitchen more for sure. Like learning like what your mom and dad's love language is and how they receive love from you, and if helping around the house is a part of you getting better meals or eating more, that's a super good way to do it.
That's good.
Yeah, for sure. Awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah,
that's good. I just started cooking on my own food, if I'm gonna be honest. Wayne Classic, what's up, man? What's your question for Rich, Wayne?
What's going on? My question is, what is a good alternative for those heavier lifting exercises? So like the squats and the deadlifts, are there any good alternatives for that you can do at home if you don't necessarily have access to the gym, or maybe you don't want to go to the gym because of like COVID?
What's your goal? Do you want to get stronger, more conditioned? What's your fitness goal?
Yeah, definitely for strength, especially as I'm getting older, just being able to reverse the damage done from sitting all the time, like Ruslan mentioned earlier. Just staying fit. Yeah, staying fit.
Okay, so there's different ways to vary intensity, and it's not always increasing the weight. You can do how fast you do a lift. Like, let's say Ruslan does 10 reps in 10 seconds, and I do 20. Who was more intense? Right? So there's different variations to improve intensity, and you can even go, okay, what I'm going to do to challenge the body is I'm going to go time under tension longer. So my rep speed is a normal, it takes 2 seconds on a contraction, 2 seconds on eccentric. Actually, I'm going to slow it down and I'm going to go 10 and 10. And that'll challenge the intensity a little bit different. Bands are a really amazing way to add with your weights that can change the variable without adding extra weight. So it changes the intensity through the range of motion. So there's a lot of different ways to change the intensity except outside of adding the weight. And so that's kind of like a general sweep of like a change in your intensity is really good. And so whether it be like, okay, I'm benching and I don't have enough weight to go super heavy. What about if I put myself under a tension time difference? I'm not going to put my feet on the ground. And there's so many different variables that we can use to change the intensity. But so look at what you got and how you can change the intensity.
That's good. Thank you.
Yep.
That's good. All right, I'm gonna go to Justin. Justin, you are live with Rich. Go for it, Justin.
So, Justin,
you're still muted, Justin. You gotta yeah, you're muted. Or something's up with your interface. I don't know what's going on with your audio. It says you're unmuted. Maybe change your audio source real quick. Try it now. No, we cannot hear you. What do you use? The default version of whatever? There you go. We just heard you. Yep. Yep.
My bad. I had an interface. This last month, I've been really focusing really on just nutrition and that, and then working out. So I do see a difference. I've been going to the gym like 3 to 4 days a week, and then I've been eating really, I guess, just focusing more on just eating less carbs. And so I'm really seeing how to get as far as my nutrition down and my meals and everything, get them down more jam-packed. As like I'll do simple oatmeal in the morning, maybe peanut butter and bread and stuff like that. But as far as like, I'll do lunch of maybe shakes, like for milkshakes and everything. But I'm still like I feel like just still like I'm not, I just don't exactly know like how much I should take in and everything. I did download an app called V-Shred that it gives me like a goal, and it gives me like my carbs, my protein, and my fat, and it says I should be taking 2,600 calories in a day. And I'm 5'8", and I was at most was 240, so I'm trying to get down really to at least 200. So kind of just how to set up my meal plan, and everything like that. So
it's a big question. How to set up his meal plan?
Yeah, I kind of I caught most of that, and kind of like what I would start is ask you this question: where's your food journal?
I don't have one.
Yeah, exactly. So that's the number one foundations for success in a successful nutrition program is the journal. Okay, and so that helps to keep you accountable to yourself and what you're eating. And I recommend not writing it at the end of the night because then you'll have food amnesia and you'll forget what you ate. So keeping a journal will definitely help you to be a little bit more accountable to your portion sizes too. And so like if I said, how much peanut butter did you have on your sandwich? You go, I don't know, one knifeful. I go, okay, well, let's get a little bit more specific on that. Let's go, was it a tablespoon, 2 tablespoons? All of that adds up when you're trying to get a good goal like you've got right now. So number one is food journal. And then setting that up. And then once you do your food journal, it's good to see, even just by keeping the food journal, you'll be surprised, oh, maybe I won't have that, or maybe I shouldn't have that much. And so that can automatically change the game. So that would be my number one recommendation for you is get a food journal, and then you'll be a little bit, it's data, it's information. So the more data, the more we have, then we can use that to make your goal better or find out what's wrong or what you're doing right and kind of work on that. And so food journal for you, and then break down your macronutrients. And then as you're keeping the food journal, you'll be able to see, if you brought me your food journal and I had your data, I could look at your food journal and go, you lost 2 pounds this week without getting you on the scale because I saw how you lived your life, and I'll be able to break it down. And so I want you to get to that point where you start focusing on that part of your life, and the transformation is the byproduct. Okay, so food journal, number one.
Yeah. MyFitnessPal is an app that serves as a food journal. Lose It serves as a food. That's the one I use. Me and Daniel both use Lose It. And I got really extreme for it because here's the thing, guys, and you could chime in if you want. Food, money, a lot of these things are just a game. Like it's just it's not that serious. It's just a game. So once you realize that food is a game, then you get an app, and I got a scale. I got a scale here. I got a scale next door. I got a scale in my car, and I'm literally the guy weighing everything. Like I'm that weirdo. You know what I mean? I weigh every meal I eat, or if I can pre-select it, like if I'm eating out and I know I could find it. So the journaling is everything, but then I needed it to become a game. I needed it to be very, very specific, and so I have a scale and I weigh everything in grams. I import it in grams, and then it converts it and Lose It or MyFitnessPal to grams of protein, grams of carbs, grams of, you know what I'm saying, fats. So view it like a game, Justin. That would be my recommendation to a lot of folks, man. I think just viewing it like a game becomes a bit more fun.
And you know what is a really good, and this is deep in all kind of levels, but taking responsibility for where you are in life, and this is a broad stroke, gives you the power to understand I can change my future. As soon as we start, man, this is a bomb. You ready?
Hold on. You got to bring that back. Yeah. Bring that back one more time.
As soon as you take the responsibility of where you're at, you have the power to change your future. As soon as I put the blame on somebody else from where I'm at, I gave them the power of my future and where it goes. So what I want you to do, take ownership in where you're at, and it sounds like you have. You just now got to kind of understand this future is in my hands. The results are a far gone conclusion. There's no way I can fail.
Yeah. I just dropped a bomb. Wow, that's a great bar. I'm gonna go to Robert here in a second. HIC, I don't know if you got your hand up or not, but if you could throw your hand up, I'll work you in here in just a second. This is a good question. In the chat, someone asked, is there a benefit is there a benefit to slimming down before trying to gain strength? Shouldn't we always be lifting and keeping our strength? You had me use strength training to slim down.
Yeah.
And then we got down to like between 180 175, and then you're like, okay, now I want you to eat more, so your body doesn't get in homeostasis, and now I'm at 195, and now I'm like, I feel super fat, I want to slim back down. And you told me, and I do something intentionally where I try to, it's been cold, but I try to train with my shirt off for that accountability, and I took my shirt off for the first time in months, and then Rich was like, oh, okay. But then you told me, you said, you're going to look better once you slim down, right? So it seems like you use strength training to slim me down. I don't know if you want to answer that directly.
Yeah, I think what it was kind of going about is strength training with maybe heavier lifting. Is heavier lifting of value as I'm leaning down, or should I lean down and lift heavy? If that's what I understand the question to be, for sure, depending on the person, as you're leaning down, the slower you do it, the less likely you're going to lose muscle. And that's ideal on a goal. I don't want you to lose any muscle. So people go on crash diets, especially a smaller frame guy. He's at a higher risk to lose muscle, or what we would call a hard gainer. He's at a higher risk to lose muscle as he's dieting down. So by keeping up your heavy lifting is a good way to keep those white muscle fibers, those big, strong muscle fibers stimulated. So for sure, there's value in it.
Yeah. Okay, we're going to go to the homie. I don't know how to pronounce your name. You could just jump in, boss. I'm gonna go to you.
What's going on? How you doing?
What's up, boss? Let me get the earpiece so Rich can hear you. Go for it.
Cool. Thanks so much. So I got a couple questions. I don't know how many you can answer. I wanted to go spiritual first and then physical. I've been working out for many years, and I've always felt like I didn't want to be a hypocrite as it relates to modesty, right? So in the church, there's this emphasis on how women and how they dress. But as I've been working out for so many years, I also want to control sort of how I dress. And, even though work out sometimes for aesthetics, like you want to look good, I'm curious as to how you approach that modesty when it relates to fitness.
Yeah, man, that is such a good question.
Well, you just did this turning 50 shoot, which I think you look great. I did a turning 35 shoot, right? And that could be murky, but I do want to hear your thoughts on it.
Yeah, and so that's a really good question, and I've actually dealt with that a lot with Christian women that I've trained with, the transformation of their bodies too, and that becomes tricky, and what's really cool about that is having godly brothers around you who keep you accountable and keep your mind and spirit in check. And being humble is one of the values as a Christian, I think we're supposed to have, being meek, powerful, but controlled, right? And so that is really tricky, and a purpose, like why you're doing it or what you're showing is a big part of it too, and knowing where you're at in your surroundings of what would be acceptable and what wouldn't be acceptable is a variable too. But that's tough. Like you can ask Ruslan, 99% of the time I'm wearing a baggy clothes or baggy anything, because it's in two reasons. I don't want to show off anything, but I don't want it to be about me.
Yeah.
And so the more I can make myself gray of not standing out, the more I can hopefully put emphasis on them. And I don't want them to compare to me at all or anything like that. So I try my best to stay humble with how I look and stuff like that. Not that I'm against somebody like wearing a tighter shirt or whatever. That's just not me and where I'm at in my life. Especially having two daughters, I never want to act in a way that I would want them to act, if that makes sense. And so, so that, I guess, would be my answer is be humble, dress humbly, and act humbly in your verbiage and how you say things is being meek and controlled. Not that being in good shape is a bad thing, or showing it in its right scenario isn't wrong.
Yeah.
And so it has its place, but more than likely dressing humble or carrying yourself in a way where it's not boastful, probably more value.
I mean, the context here is interesting because I think and
super good question too, by the way.
It's a tough one because I don't know if there's anything wrong with saying, yo, Rich, dude, summer's coming,
Yeah.
and I want to go to the beach and not feel weird to take my
100%.
shirt off,
Yeah.
right? Or to be the guy that's in the water with the shirt on. Like, I don't want to be that
Yeah.
guy. I want to look good at the beach, right?
Yeah.
Is that a I don't think that's a bad desire.
No, and it's not, and it's a little tricky too on the purpose behind things. And so like, we had this question the other day, is pride and being proud the same thing or different? The majority of people think, and I kind of tend to agree, it's okay to be proud of certain things, but pride is the too much part of that proudness, right? And so learning and understanding that context in your life and with your body, it can change. And because, okay, here's two scenarios. I have somebody who is super. Okay, this might be too much, and I don't know if it's appropriate for this, but I have had many women who, once they've been married, won't turn on the lights when they're making love with their spouse because they feel so ashamed of their body. And that's not uncommon when someone feels ashamed of their body. So on the flip side, I don't want a girl dressing or acting in a way where it's simulating other people around her, and she's like married or anything like that, that's causing a brother to stumble or somebody else to check her out. So it's a fine line, and it's tough. It's so situational.
Yeah.
I find that I personally, I don't feel comfortable posting pics on social media, for example, with my shirt off. I think I went to, my honeymoon with my wife was the last time I took a picture with my shirt off. And I sort of got saved after that, and I just haven't been comfortable going back to that. And then I guess even when I'm at the gym, having my arms out or I wore this today at the gym, and it seems like it's, I guess, okay, but that could also be a stumbling block. And in my mind, as I'm trying to avert my eyes from women I see, I'm also saying, like, wait a second, could I be this for somebody else? So even I find difficulty trying to manage that.
And the best thing that you're doing, which is amazing, as a guy, is you're checking yourself, and so you're keeping yourself in check. You're not just acting. You're kind of assessing. And so typically, like with me, my wife actually is the one who surprised me with that photo shoot for my birthday. I would never do something like that. That's just not me. And she was proud of the work I put in, and I was just going to do it for the transformation for my own personal. But she was so proud of me and the discipline that I put in. She paid with another friend for the photo shoot. And so every picture I post, I throw it by her first. Is this appropriate? Is this not appropriate? Yeah. And so she gives me the yay or nay. And so I personally, I know what you're going through, is like, I feel awkward sometimes throwing that out there.
Yeah. I mean, for me, just I did a turning 35 photo shoot last year. And what it was a good tool for me to now be accountable, because now this thing is coming. Like, I turned 35, this thing is coming. You don't get to cheat on your nutrition because it's around the holidays. We done set a date. The photographer is coming. Yeah. What are you going to do about it, right? Yeah. And it was a good goal for me. But my audience has changed, one. And so that's not something that I'm going to do every year. And those photos are still up. So one thing I did, it was like, hey, I understood my audience was predominantly male, one. Two, I have my son in the photos with me. Yeah. So that's instantly putting off the energy of like, hey, I'm a married man. Look, I'm a father. And that's not something I'm going to do every year, but I probably will do another like turning 40 photo shoot. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm definitely going to do that, because what it does for me is it keeps me accountable. And it keeps, hey, this date is coming. I can't just be like, you know what I mean? Not do this. But I do feel you on that. And I have had to become sensitive. It's like, yo, there's way more women watching this channel. The last thing I'm going to do is just throw up a bunch of flippant photos of me with my shirt off just because I think I look good. It's just not wise. Can I justify it? Yeah, but I'm with you. It's not wise. It's not smart. It's not helpful. But there is that degree where, like, I see Rich with his shirt off at 50 in the thumbnail of this photo in his Instagram. I'm like, man, that's inspirational, right? Where's that line? That's the tough part. Where, especially if you are a leader and you are an influencer and you are here to help other people, where's that line between inspiration and hey, I'm gonna lead and you can follow my example, versus saying, I'm gonna flaunt, right? Like I'm gonna flaunt. Sometimes when in music and in hip hop, it is a little too aspirational and inspirational. It's a little too flaunty, right? So it's like finding that balance. And fitness culture is kind of the same as well. It's like a lot of like these guys are on steroids or gear. They're using stuff. It's not natural and it's just a little over the top, you know. So that's a great question, man. Did you have a follow-up question for that? This is a good topic.
Yes. Well, I actually wanted to switch to the fitness side, if that's okay, or if you want to stay on this.
Yeah, no. We definitely could switch.
Okay. So I love squats. I love deadlifts. But unfortunately, I recently got diagnosed with some lost cartilage in the back of my kneecap and a slightly torn meniscus.
Ouch.
And basically,
I've been there.
I got to lay off squats and deadlifts for a little while. I want to know from you any advice on recovering from that, what types of exercises to do, but at the same time still maintain strength.
Oof. Yeah, tough.
It's hard.
Definitely, I've been known as a not to be the best person to sit on a sideline and not work through an injury, but an ideal situation, you want to avoid pain, right? In recovery, you just got to make sure, kind of like what I would recommend typically is you could even maybe kind of like where you can kind of control it a little bit better on a leg press to simulate a squat a little bit, because you can kind of adjust your feet position and how much stress is on the knee. Definitely wearing like certain supports that can help to stabilize an injury, can help to, whether it be knee supports, knee sleeves, knee wraps, different things to kind of protect the knee, to keep the knee in alignment. Like using body weight movements, all those kind of things, and how you differently challenge it. But even I would look into increasing circulation in the knee by using heat pads and different things to increase your recovery. And I would recommend actually looking into TENS units or electrical stim units to help so that your body doesn't atrophy in certain areas too. So that can help increase like compacts or any of those kind of muscle stimulators to activate the muscle so that it doesn't atrophy. You can even do, looking at if, depending on the severity of the injury, isometric tensions. So everybody hates these and they suck, but like wall sits where you're kind of pinned up against the wall and the muscle isn't contracting or it isn't lengthening or shortening, but it's under tension. Those can be ways to typically stimulate like the quad a little bit, making sure that you're doing it maybe where you have a support underneath you so you don't just collapse and stuff. But definitely looking into doing the movements, but doing them in a way potentially that is not threatening. So you can do like what are called reverse bands on a squat. I don't know if you've ever tried that, where you hook the bands up from the top of the rack, so as you go down deeper, the weight gets lighter. Look into that. It's called Future Method. We'll do a video on that soon or something like that. And put
Future
that
Method is fire.
Yeah, we do that on the bench and stuff like that. It's so like at the lowest, most vulnerable point of the squat, the weight is the lightest. But as you start to stand up with the weight, you can even do chains and stuff like that, where your knee isn't as vulnerable at the top of the movement. It's heavier. And so those are fun things to play with too as you're recovering from an injury.
Yeah, I had knee surgery about a year ago, and it was the same thing where like my knee tweaked and I was super bummed out, and I had some scar tissue from an ACL reconstruction, and then my meniscus was tweaked. One of the things that I found, because I couldn't run, I couldn't play basketball, I couldn't do any of the stuff I normally did, but one of the things that I got into was working out my these are hips, your the sides, your IT band, your hips. So doing like they look super silly and kind of girly, but like working out the sides and opening those up, and they're difficult to do. So I would take so I would stand and I would clip a thing to the bottom of my leg, and I would just pull my leg out and the sides. And it's 10 pounds. So I started working my legs in different ways, because some of that injury was because I had weak hips and weak obliques and you know what I'm saying, and stuff like that. So I just started kind of modifying and doing different stuff.
I've been working out so long. I know better mentally.
Yeah.
But the ego comes in.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
You know, if I've done, I think my max, I think I got like 3 reps at 405 at one point. Yeah. So to go from that to now 225 is when I felt the injury that made me go get an MRI, and now the doctor's saying, you know, you got to lay off. I'm like, to be in the gym with rubber bands, it just doesn't feel good. Like, that's not why, you know, I work out to begin with. It's just hard.
Are you wearing any knee sleeves or anything like wraps or anything like that?
At this point, when I go to the gym now, I do have a knee brace that was
A
prescribed.
knee brace?
So
Look into some knee sleeves.
It was hurting even in that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, look into some knee sleeves like the higher millimeter, like 7 or higher millimeter that are compression sleeves that'll give you that stress off your knee at the bottom of the lift. And that should help. The knee braces are good for like especially stabilization, but look into some sleeves that can help with helping out of the bottom.
That's good. That's good. That's good. All right, let's see. There's a couple folks in here that had questions.
Shout out to my girl Kristen who keeps typing in too.
Who's that? Do you see her?
Kristen, she was up there.
She was? I didn't see her.
She was up there somewhere. She's more giving a shout out.
Okay, dope. Okay, so let's see. Guys, I'm going to come back to you, Robert, when your hand is up. Excuse me, when your camera's back on. Let me hit some of these in here. Sandra says she's 53, been doing squats with weights, been having excruciating knee pain, and found out through an MRI I have tears in the meniscus. I don't want to stop. What can I do? That what did you say, apply
Very
to hers?
similar. Yeah.
Question, could you share some nutrition and workout basics for slimmer guys to gain mass on conjunction with home workout since it's COVID? That's tough, but it's fun.
Yeah.
Because I instantly think of a couple foods that I think could help someone like that. But I think you're the experts. We're gonna go to the experts first.
Yeah. So he's asking about nutrition, and workout. Okay. Yeah. So nutritionally, you have to be careful with not gaining fat while you're gaining size, and so really kind of once again journaling and dialing in and even taking measurements with yourself to kind of keep an eye on making sure as you're adding calories that you're not getting excess fat with the muscle that you're gaining. So was he a young guy? Is that what it was?
Sounds like a young guy. Definitely a slim guy.
Oh, slim guy. Okay. Yeah. So typically you got to, first of all, I got to understand is like you got to stay in your lane. So like if you're typically a slim guy, more than likely you're not going to be able to gain a lot of new muscle really fast. So you have to be patient. So don't try to rush into it. Definitely start looking into maybe potentially some supplements like adding a little bit of creatine as a cell volumizer. But slowly start to increase your protein intake if you're not monitoring that. Start to maybe at the end of the night add a shake to your night so that you add those extra calories. That in that case where a shake would be valuable is it absorbs really fast into the system. So maybe ending the night with an extra shake more than you've been doing. So add maybe 400 or 500 extra calories at the end of your night. And as far as workouts during COVID, depending on the equipment you have, super hard to gain strength if you're not fully equipped gym. But just right now, just really try to stay in, I would say, the hypertrophy zone of like reps or weight heavy enough.
Yes.
Maybe that 10 to 12 rep range is going to be pretty valuable for you.
Yeah, I think all of that, the shakes, the drinking the calories, because it would be the opposite for someone, right?
Yep.
How can he drink calories? So shakes with peanut butter. We try to get Levi to eat a lot of peanut butter, almond butter, because it's less volume, tons of calories, right? Peanut butter sandwiches, almond butter sandwiches. You can get a ton of calories in you just through almond butter, peanut butter, putting that stuff in your shakes and eat, drink a 400 or 500 calorie shakes right away, 700 calorie shakes, acai bowls, that kind of stuff. I think that's fun. Like if you're in that spot where you got to eat more. Like, goodness gracious, that's fun. But it can be difficult for a lot of people to eat more.
Yeah. And once again, when you talked about like that denser food filling you up, guess what? Now reverse that. He's going to have to eat foods that are lighter and burn through his body quicker so he's not as full.
Yep.
And so everything we talked about earlier of transformation of losing weight, you got to flip it over.
Yeah. Okay, let's go to Brian. This is a good question. We'll probably do one or two more after this. Brian says, I'm 17, lift weights 4 days a week, upper and lower, jump rope 10 minutes, 4 days a week, abs 3 days a week, and do basketball drill workouts. My dad said I should reduce a little. Any tips? I do basketball workouts 6 days a week. Goodness, you do basketball six times a week, and you're lifting weights 4 times a week.
Yeah.
What do you think? Is that a lot?
I say, why is Dad saying that? Yeah, especially we're in a time where everybody's not moving much at all. It sounds like you're doing really, really good.
Yeah.
I would wonder why your dad would say that. Maybe you're not taking care of your responsibilities that you're supposed to do outside of that, and then maybe your priorities are out of whack. Maybe that's something. But as far as your exercising go, it looks fine.
And maybe the nutrition's out of check. Maybe he's not eating.
Yeah,
enough.
that's what I'd have to have a little bit more data of why Dad would say that.
Yeah.
If you're getting injured or something's going wrong, or like what's the purpose behind Dad saying that?
Because if he's training that hard, but isn't eating enough, and isn't doing some form of active recovery, that could increase injury chances.
For sure.
Correct?
For sure.
Yeah, so I think that's the thing is like when I was going that hard and not eating right and not recovering right, the chances of injury I feel like increased for me.
Yep.
So I think maybe that's it. That might be it. Okay. Sherney says I had 2 back surgeries from a herniation. I think that's what it is. I'm 43, 5'3", pear-shaped, and injured myself working out and doing deadlifts and squats. Ouch! I've gained 20 pounds. What else can I do? Oof.
Yeah. So typically, people that deadlift, and it's really hard not to, is we love to max out. We love to see how much weight we can lift off the floor. And as soon as we get, now if somebody's looking for a certain goal that they need to do that, that's a different story. But for the general person, we don't be needed to lift that heavy. Just putting too much stress on the spine or the hips or the knees. And then potentially, are you doing it right? And so if your biomechanics are a little off and you're lifting lightweight, you can get away with it. But as soon as you're going to max weight and your biomechanics, or you don't have somebody watching your technique, or just a breakdown of the body, it's going to happen. And so don't necessarily get rid of your deadlifts, but once you're healed and you feel better and you come back to them, get in perspective of like, it's not all about a single rep weight or that super heavy weight. So getting that challenge of how strong I am, and it's fun to see, especially women love deadlifts. I get more women surprised when they see how strong they are, that just want to kind of dive into that. And so what was the second part of that question?
Alternatives. It sounds like there's a lot of like like, what are alternatives for deadlifts?
Yeah, you can look, first of all, take it way down with the weight. And so you can do deadlifts with a kettlebell, you can do deadlifts with dumbbells. So kind of in which your grip is going to be your limiting factor in most of those. So maybe start there. Start with a deadlift with dumbbells, or you're looking to do a different kind of deadlift. So where you're going to go a sumo, so you're going to go a wider stance, or you're going to do more hip hinging. And so you can vary that so that it takes stress off of the knee too.
Yeah, and by the way, guys, we seldom max. When I train with Rich, I mean, I think I've maxed out on the bench once or twice.
Very rare.
Very rare do we max. Very rare do we go very heavy. It's usually the opposite. It's like, hey, make sure you could do this for 15 reps. Now let's do it for 12.
Yeah.
Right.
And so we use like the value that going heavy or going max, unless it's a competition or something, it's for information or for data to see where we're at and see where the body's breaking down at. So let's take a deadlift, for instance. I don't care if he can deadlift 400 pounds off the ground if his back is all rolled and his knees are shaking and his hips twerked and all of this. I'd much rather see where is his form breaking down at, and then kind of work it backwards from there. So like, unless you're doing like a powerlifting competition, I wouldn't recommend going for max lifts.
Yeah, that's good. Let's go to Wayne Classic. He got another question for us, and I think we'll wrap up after this. Go for it, Wayne Classic. You're live, boss.
Okay, so I don't hear a lot of people talking about stretching. So I just wanted to ask, what's a good resource, or what's some practical stretches that you can do to make sure that you're flexible in the way that you need to be?
Stretching.
Yeah.
What are some good resources?
Stretching is really good, and once again, it's a tool in fitness. Of like, typically most of us have imbalances in our body, especially if you've been driving a lot or you sit a lot at home or you're on the computer. You're going to have tighter hip flexors and hamstrings and those kind of things. And so learning where your imbalances are, don't just do general stretching just because I'm stretching, but find out where your imbalances are and kind of work those. I'm a big fan of getting a light warm up, getting the blood flowing a little bit, because you never want to stretch cold taffy, right? It would snap. Same thing with our muscles. We want it to be warmed up, and so it's more pliable. I typically, as a pre-workout, like dynamic stretching, so movement in stretching, not a static hold. If I'm doing like a corrective stretch or after a workout, a static stretch is okay, but typically a dynamic movement or dynamic stretching, I would recommend pre-workout.
That's good. Last question. It's a good question. Stefan. Oh, wait. Why did you retract that? Is HIIT workout more effective than running on a treadmill? That was a good question. I don't know why he retracted that. HIIT versus treadmill. So we're really talking about high intensity versus steady state, slow state.
Yeah. Both have values depending on your goal and depending on your body type is going to be which more effective. So let's say if I take a really strong muscular bodybuilder, I'm not going to have him do long distance running, right? I'm going to have him doing the shorter dynamic, either lifting or running, right? So his body type is more of a fast twitch, and I want to actually put emphasis on what lane he's in. Now, if I take somebody who has better conditioning and better endurance, maybe that person's going to need the slower, longer cardio. But both have value, and I don't dismiss either one of them.
Yeah, and I've been walking a lot.
Yeah,
I've been walking a lot, and then I sprint. So it's one for me. It's one of the two. Personally, I do not like jogging. I do not like ellipticals. I like to just go on a walk. So I can take my son on a walk, and then we've been going and doing sprints. So for me, it's one of those two. But that's just, and I like basketball, but I just being on a treadmill like that just sounds like hell.
And that's the thing is. We need stimulation, right? So number one, I want you to have discipline to do what you need to do, even though you don't want to do it. But then we need motivation. We need to do things that we like to do. And so, first of all, we start with that discipline of knowing I've got to do one of the two, but then it can go into motivation about what gets me excited with the workouts. You can get your goal using many different tools. And so learning which tool you like to do, more than likely you'll do it more.
That's good. All right, guys. That's it. We're done. This was fun. Rich, thank you. Maybe we will have you back on if you'd be gracious enough.
Joseph.
I'll throw your Instagram on underneath this. If you guys follow me, I mean, I post something with Rich pretty much every morning. So follow him. If you're in North County, maybe consider reaching out. And he actually has a program that he's been working on that is on the way that I'm excited for you guys to hear about. That kind of incorporates, it's not like it's more of a mentality program is the way I was like described. We don't want to give too much away. You'll hopefully be here before the end of the year. So hopefully this was helpful. If this was helpful, give this video a like, thumbs up. If you found Rich helpful, follow him on Instagram. Send him some love, appreciation, all that kind of stuff. And hold on, this is a brutal question. I don't know if we want to answer this on the outro. I was 18, I'm 22 now, and I'm overweight, wanting to take my life back.
Yeah.
Shoot us a DM, man. It starts with the mentality. So we're gonna get out of here, guys. You guys have a good one. Joshua the King came down and bore it all. Yeah. Conversations front of the fireplace. All of my mistakes, how do I erase? Wanna operate at a higher pace. Birth pains causing the body to dilate. On a first name basis with the worst pain facing. Moments in isolation. See, I was hoping I would do this to get more family time. A busy mind and worried heart is just not where I reside. I subscribed that all that traveling wasn't doing well for my soul. Glad I never made it when my name went through the rumor mill. I suppose that the Lord knows I'd have failed. Instead, I'm doing well.